Just a 45-degree slide is kind of what you got to think of. And look at that. Although our dent looks this small, look how much is actually being highlighted. The cleaner the panel is, the better the results. Do not spin this stuff. All right, so we're just barely tacky. We're ready to jump on this. So as you can see, it's powdering up. It's barely sticking to the sandpaper. Perfect time to catch it. Now another thing, don't push. You can see the door flexing. Don't do that. You want to let the paper do all the work. All right, as soon as you see that come through, you want to stay away from that area. You're about to make a high spot here. So I'm gonna jump down to 180 and kind of finish this out. As you can see, it's starting to come through there. I still have mud here and it is super transparent. Might not be showing up on camera. The real test is, how does it feel? Well, if your hand's not that sensitive, grab your prep towels, look away from the panel, and run your hand across it. Oh. And I feel that this is a high spot. I sanded too much off. I need to respread. That's just fine. Like I said, most dents are gonna take you 2 spreads. So, this way feels just fine. I can barely feel it because I know what I'm feeling for. You throw a rag on there, paper towel, whatever, and it becomes way bigger of a dent. It feels completely different. Very good trick. Use it all the time. Make it happen. Now that I know that this is straight, I just had that one little high through the bottom, I can come back with a finer grit. For example, 120. It's not as aggressive as 80 grit or even 100 grit. Something that's still gonna cut straight, but I don't need it to be straight. I don't need it to cut a lot of material because we're only cutting a little bit just to make it straight again. So I'm gonna jump down to 120 and finish this out. I also found another dent behind the fuel door. The fuel door blocked out, all the other dents blocked out. This is my main focus right now, so I don't have to worry about anything else. Another note is, I like to finish my body filler out in 180. That's what the primer seems to go over best. When you stick with finer grits, sometimes the primer doesn't like to stick, or you have more of a chance of it flaking off. Same with coarser grits. You could have 80 grit scratches and prime over them, or even 36 grit scratches. Now that's gonna be the same result as priming over a dent. It has the potential to shrink and go into those scratches. 180 seems to be the middle of the road where everything works as well as it should. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hit this with 120, get my lines out of it, switch to 180, finish it out. Remember your guide coat. If you're not sure what's going on with your panel, black it all out and keep blocking. It is your roadmap. It will let you know where you need to go. I can't stress enough how good of a product it is, especially when learning, and especially when you can't figure out what's going on. It will let you know exactly what's going on. It hurts feelings, let's put it that way. You think you're a good body man? Well, throw some guide coat on there and see how it blocks out. Bet you're gonna find something you couldn't see or feel. This is exactly what you want to see happen. It's starting to get transparent here and here. That means you're done blocking there. Do not run the block over those areas anymore. You can block into it a little bit, and I still have some to take out down here. But I have switched to 180 to feather everything out. But I know that I want to stay away from these areas, because the more I hit it, the more that's going to come this way. You don't want that. This is it yelling at you to stop. This is your roadmap. Do not push it farther. You're there. You've arrived. Congratulations. Now move on. Alrighty, so this is what all blocked out looks like. We got a nice transparent color around where our dent is, meaning there is still body filler in through these areas, and it is going to be as straight as it can be. As soon as you get some primer on there, it is going to block out beautifully. Now, you're like, I don't like having body filler out here. I don't think you realize how thin it is out there. When you can see silver through it, or your base color underneath it, sure, it's a little bit patchier in other areas. It is so thin, it's gonna block out. Do not try and push it, because as soon as you're like, I just want this perfect circle here, that perfect circle is gonna show up later, and that's not what you want. You wanna leave it just like this. This is ideal. Your primer is gonna help you block it out, and you're gonna be so happy with how it blocks and how it looks afterwards. And oh hey, don't forget your mask. It'll help protect your lungs from breathing this crap in. You don't need to be breathing it in. I wasn't wearing it when I was talking to you guys or had plans to talk to you guys, but off camera, I'm always wearing it. So you should do the same. Protect yourself. Be smart. So this is the car blocked out. I got all my dents fixed. I will block that when I block the primer on top. Last area to take care of. This area up here. Gonna bust out the hammer and dolly and get the shape back in it so that it's smooth transition here, and then we'll wipe it with body filler. Well, I need to get this fender out of the way, so let me do that real quick. Alrighty, now we're gonna go ahead and address this damage right here. Well, how far does it have to come out? Because taking your fender on and off 200 times to make sure it's right is gonna kind of suck. Well, there's a special tool that will help you. No, just kidding. There's a really ordinary tool. You can have a mixing stick, a ruler, something that's just slightly flexible. I got this piece of aluminum here, and you can put it against the door and make it follow the curvature of the door and see how far off it is. As you may or may not be able to see, there's an air gap here, showing that this door is bent in. You can also visually inspect it and see that the curve is not the same. So I'm gonna go ahead and bust out a hammer and dolly and try and slowly and gently ease it out. Okay, some basics on hammer and dolly. There are basically two forms of hammer and dolly. And what I mean by that, there is hammer off dolly, so where you have this piece behind the metal and you're knocking this area down, or there's hammer on dolly, which is directly over it, which is going to stretch your metal a little bit. Not much, I mean, you're not a power hammer, even if you think you are, but it's still enough to slightly stretch the metal to bring it this way. I'm gonna use a little bit of both. I'm gonna do hammer off dolly because I want to bring this edge out, but I'm also gonna hammer on dolly to get the curvature. I'm going to use my dolly here to help get that shape in the door close enough that I can wipe it, and it's not gonna show on this edge that I got a whole bunch of mud. Sometimes it's really difficult to get a hammer in tight areas. They make some cool hammers where they don't have a back, it's just the face. I don't happen to have any of those, so sometimes just grabbing your other dolly supporting this one and being able to use it as the hammer will get you there too. Feels really close. Grab my piece of aluminum here, check it. And I have a low here and a low here. Well, I don't want to overwork the metal, but I'm going to try and get this to come up just enough that it's not so low in through here. Because that may or may not show, but I'm gonna just try and roll that edge out just a little bit more. All right, looking excellent. And it feels really close. So let's go ahead and just rough this up, get some mud on there. Alrighty, remember, first clean your panel, sand your panel, wipe it off one more time, then you can mix up your body filler. Who doesn't like making plastic? It's pretty cool, pretty fun. Can be a mess, can be frustrating, could be all sorts of different things, but when you can get it right, it's very rewarding. You feel very good about what you're doing. You're not butchering it, you're not putting too much on there, and you can be proud of what it is. Remember, you want your filler super smooth and nice and feathered out on your edges, because the less lines that are in it, the faster, straighter, and easier it's going to sand. Just a reminder, you want to catch it in the green state to where it's just barely sticky, but it's not going to plug up your paper. So check on the outsides. This one's ready to go. And start with 80. You want to get it straight first, and then we can worry about our next coat and making it feather out properly. But first, get it straight. As you can see, it's starting to burn through there, so it's just a little bit high before the edge of the door. It's not a big deal. We can re-wipe it to get this low spot out of here. But what you want to do is get all of this shaved down as far as it's going to go without making this too high so that you can block it again. Because if you don't cut this down far enough, what you're going to end up with here is a high spot. And then you're going to end up chasing it farther and farther in every direction. So shave it down as good as you can and as you're comfortable with, where it still feels smooth, it still looks good, you're just ending up with a high spot right there at the very edge. Alrighty, I'm starting to really hit metal there. I want to stop. Don't push it farther than that. It feels good. I'll just feather out these edges a little more, kind of just work on them, getting them feathered in, and we'll re-spread it. All right, so I'm ready to spread again. Now, if you're worried about these still being high or having to build this too much that it's going to be seen, you can go ahead and take the back of your body hammer and just lightly tap down on where your high spot is. Not too much, you don't want to cave it in and create more problems. Most modern cars are made out of somewhere around 20 gauge steel, which is super thin, and it does not take too much to move. So don't get too rowdy, lay off the roids, just light taps in the area you want it. When you think you got it, wipe this down one more time, get all the dust out of it, spread another coat. Alrighty, same thing. Check for it to get a little tacky. Jump on there with 80, get your lines out, make sure there's scratches across the whole panel. And then I'm gonna jump up a grit, 120 to 180. Once it all starts feathering out, jump down. If you want, go ahead, throw your guide coat on there. And remember, as soon as it starts peeking through, stop. You're done. Don't go any further. The only time to keep going is if you still have a low spot here, you know you're gonna have to re-wipe. This is blocking out beautifully. Just need to get the bottom to start feathering in, and we're there. Give it the old field test. If you're still not confident, put a rag, look away from the panel, and rub your hand across there. Come on, buddy. Should feel nice and straight. And one other check you can do. Just takes your wax and grease remover, spray it on the panel. It's gonna give it the shine as if it's cleared. You can walk around it, use the lights in the ceiling, and make sure there is no distortions at all through the panel. If there are, it's not straight enough, it's not done yet. Keep going until those distortions are gone. You may have to wipe it a couple times, but it's gonna be your best roadmap. It's gonna give you the look of what it's gonna look like when it's painted. So definitely use wax and grease, wet down the whole area, and then blow dry it off to get any residual off. Give it one more final fitment, put your fender up there, make sure it fits, make sure that your panel alignment is perfect, that you have exact panel match, that the door's not sticking out and above the fender in the curvature. Check everything. You want it to fit just as good as the fender is. So, with that said, I'll get the fender on here, check it out, and we'll move on. Alrighty, upon initial inspection, everything is fitting just how I want it, flush. I just have a little bit tighter gap in through here, which tells me when I put some body filler on the edge, I built the edge of the door out. No big deal. I'll just stick my sandpaper between there and help shave it down till my door gap's exactly how I want it. And then let's get this fender back off of here and we'll get the car masked up to spot prime in these body filled areas. So to prep this for primer, we're gonna do the same thing, same basic thing as we did with the clear. Gonna 320 out to the edges where we're gonna take our primer. Take it to the edge, anywhere that you're gonna be able to soft edge it best. I thought about just doing the whole door, but I don't need to. I can come out to here, out to here. It's gonna be close. Might just buzz it down and to the back of the door as well. So I'll get this prepped, get it masked, and then I'll show you how I like to spot prime body filled areas. Alrighty, so we got our primer mixed up, we're masked, ready to go. So first things first, I'm not gonna spray primer all the way to this edge. Don't worry, that will make and create problems with a hard edge to sand that you might see later. What I am going to do, for my first couple coats, I'm going to try and keep my primer only in the area where I have body filler. So I'm gonna try to keep my coats nice and tight just over my body filler. Each coat, I will step it out a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, till it's all, I'm not quite into my tape, but I know I've got all my 80 grit scratches covered with primer. And I will do that for each spot as I go around the car. So it's very important, just stay, there's two ways to do it. You can either start with your outside coat and then come in each coat, or you can start covering your damaged area and stepping out. I like to step out. That way I know where my damage was and is. That way I can get the best coverage possible, the heaviest amount of primer on those areas that are gonna need the most to be able to block out correctly. With that said, let's go ahead and throw some primer on this piggy. There she is, all primed up, slick, slathered on there. Hopefully she blocks out. It's gonna block out. don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine. I did notice though, and you can notice as you prime your car, that it puts a reflection on there. So check your bodywork. Use the lights, walk around the car as the primer is still wet on the panel. Make sure there's no weird areas. As I sprayed it, behind the damaged area on the fuel door, there was another dent. Not in the bodywork that we did, not at the edge of our bodywork, but actually past that. As I was spraying the primer just a little past there, I saw a line in the light. And I go, well, there's another dent. Whether it'll block out or not, I don't know. Am I too worried about it? Not really. It's not like I'm trying to take this car to competitions and compete and everybody's gonna look at it and check it for straightness. This is an everyday run-of-the-mill car. It's most important thing that I wanted to attain was to fix the major dents, the ones that really jump out at you. The front of the door being bent, the big dent in the middle, and the big door dinger right behind the fuel door. So those are fixed. As it blocks out, we'll just check it out, see if we have to spot prime it in. If we do, it's not a big deal. So watch in the next episode, we're gonna go ahead and sand down our primer, our epoxy up here, our spot primed areas, and then we're gonna go ahead and prep the hood, the fenders, and everything else that we need for paint. We are right there. This car is going to get painted. We are well on our way. A lot of people, for some reason, stop at this stage or they start driving the car at this stage. Please don't do that. Epoxy is not a UV resistant, so or a UV resistant primer. It will fade, it'll go chalky and go nasty. Your surfacer is porous. It will wick water. It will take water down to your body filler area, down to your bare metal, and it'll start rusting. Please just go ahead and paint it. Do not drive it around. There's not worth it. Fix it right, fix it once, and be done. So, watch for the next episode. We'll be blocking this bad girl for paint. I'm excited. I hope you are too, and I hope you have a great freaking day.